Tell me if this sounds like you. Let's say you're a student and you've just been assigned a very important project. You've got to write 5,000 words of hell for an essay, and you realize that this is going to count for about 50% of your grade this semester. That's a pretty big deal, you tell yourself. I've got to start this right away. So you immediately head back home, you sit down at your desk, pen and paper in hand, laptop out in front of you, you're ready to start your research. However, just as you're about to dive into the first article, your phone buzzes. It's your friend. There's a new update on Valorant, bro. Hop on. You know you should probably say no, but you have a few weeks to get this assignment done. So you close down the article and log into Steam. Hours turn into days as you fall deeper into the endless hole of procrastination. Binge watching Netflix here, doom scrolling on Instagram there. It feels like you're stuck in an infinite loop of avoiding the one thing that you know you should be doing. Each day the mounting sense of pressure grows heavier and heavier on your shoulders, but you keep telling yourself, I'll start tomorrow, I've still got time. But then you realize you haven't got time left. The assignment is due in 3 days. It's not about getting a good grade anymore. Now it's about trying not to fail the whole damn thing. All that panic finally snaps you out of the procrastination bubble. You crack open a Monster and you begin to work like your life depends on it. But thankfully, a few stressful days and sleepless nights later, you submit your paper. Fast forward a few weeks and your assignment is handed back to you. To your great relief, you haven't failed. You've managed to scrape a pass somehow. But as you're reading through your teacher's feedback, you can't help but feel like you could have done so much better. This is nowhere near your full potential. Most students, my former self included, don't know the first thing about focus. A lot of people will succumb to procrastination and get a bad grade, just like in the story I told you, but then they won't even change up their approach. They'll just think, oh, better luck next time. But in today's age where we're bombarded with messages and notifications, just endless amounts of information, if you want to stand out, if you want to be able to focus, you've got to try something different. Personally, I feel like there's a lot of fake productivity going on amongst students. Is it really a productive use of your time if you're making a schedule and then spending the next half an hour color coding it? These dickheads think they're being productive by going to the library all day for like 12 hours, when really they're just spending 8 of those hours on their phone or talking to their friends. These people have the wrong systems in place and they just don't understand how focus works on a fundamental level. Do you think the current generation of millionaires spend all day working? Do you think they're in the library for 12 hours? Not a chance, bro. In fact, most of them spend just 3 to 4 hours working a day, and the rest of their time they get to relax and do with as they please. And the reason they're able to do this is through a concept called deep work. Now, the idea of deep work has been around for hundreds of years. We just didn't have a name for it. But the term was technically created by a guy called Cal Newport, who speaks about the topic at length in his book, Deep Work. And deep work basically refers to our ability to enter this total flow state of concentration where we're free from all other distractions and can just focus on the task at hand. Now, the average person might have a few moments of the day that they spend in a state of deep work flow, but the majority of their time will be spent doing shallow tasks, which are tasks that don't really advance us further towards our goals. And the big problem is, we've been conditioned to believe that working more hours is better for productivity, even if we spend most of that time in a distracted state of mind. Be honest with yourself. In an 8-hour workday, how much good work are you really getting done? Maybe like 2 or 3 hours? But through utilizing deep work, we have the potential to get done 5 times more work in 4 hours than in 8 hours of shallow work. Before you've even hit noon, I've usually done about 2 to 3 hours of work. That could be writing scripts for the channel, it could be doing important university work. I could finish the day there if I wanted to. I promise you, you're never gonna catch me color coding my schedule or replying to useless emails. But there is a catch. Deep work requires you to push your mind out of its comfort zone through incredible mental effort and concentration. Think of it as an extreme short burst of focus, where you're working very close to your mental limit. And whilst that is going to be exhausting, it enables you to produce high quality work within a fraction of the time it would usually take. This is how millionaires can get by only working a few hours a day. They schedule most of their important business tasks at the beginning of the day and get them done as part of deep work. Then the rest of the day they can spend relaxing or doing shallow tasks. So bro, at this point you might be thinking, that's not me. I can't focus. No matter what happens, I always end up procrastinating. And to that I say, don't be too hard on yourself. You probably didn't know it, but deep work is a skill. And the reason you procrastinate so much is because you haven't spent time leveling up that skill. So of course you're not that good at it yet. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 strategies for getting started with deep work. So how do we get started with building this skill? Well, first of all, to build any habit, we need effective systems and routines. Because when we do something enough times and it becomes a habit, we don't need to think about it, we just do it. And if we make a habit out of deep work, obviously that's going to result in us becoming insanely productive. So to build up this habit, you need to commit to scheduling regular deep work blocks, which are periods of uninterrupted focus just for work. Now there are a couple of different approaches we could take to designing our deep work blocks, but because I'm such a nice guy, I'm going to save you some time and give you the best one right away. And that's rhythmic scheduling, which are 3 or 4 hour blocks of deep work every single day. Now this method has a lot of advantages. You might have noticed that this was the one I said Millionaires used. You wake up early in the morning and you just get straight into 3 or 4 hours of uninterrupted deep work. And what I quite like about it is you don't have to be so rigid with the rest of your schedule. Because you've got the important work done at the beginning of the day, the rest of the day is flexible for whatever you want. And obviously that commitment to doing it every day is going to help you level up this skill much faster. But probably the most important thing is it's a realistic time commitment. Deep work requires a lot of sustained effort and mental stamina. Even the people who are most skilled at it can only keep going for about 4 hours before their mind feels totally drained. So considering the rhythmic approach only asks for about 3 or 4 hours a day of your time, compared to other approaches which ask for weeks or months out of the year dedicated to deep work, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck here. If the thought of 4 hours of uninterrupted work is uncomfortable to you right now, think about it this way. Your current approach to work is probably to sit in front of your computer for 6 or 7 hours in a very unfocused state. One tab open with YouTube on, you've got your phone out in front of you, all at the same time you're trying to write a paper. Surely getting in 1 to 2 hours deep, focused work every single day is more productive than that. I can guarantee it's going to be more enjoyable because you end up with more free time to spend on whatever you like. But right then I touched on something that I used to struggle a lot with, and that leads me to my second strategy, which is never multitask. So one of the most interesting ideas that Cal Newport gives us from deep work is this concept called attention residue. Imagine I'm trying to work on an essay and I suddenly get a message from my friends. I'm going to answer it because it only takes 2 seconds. But after switching back to the essay task, I have unknowingly reduced my capacity for focus. That's attention residue. Because I tried to multitask or switch between different tasks quickly, my mind didn't properly disengage from the previous task, which was replying to my friend. So I still have lingering thoughts that are disrupting my work on the paper. It's like my attention has now been split into 2, so I can't dedicate my full focus to either of the tasks. I promise you, as much as I wish it wasn't the case, deep work can only happen when you are completely focused on one thing. So you might be thinking, what if someone tries to reach me during that time? What if my mum wants to call me or my friend wants to hang out? And I say, does that really need your immediate attention? You've got to think of your attention as something precious. It has the potential to make your dreams or crush them. Generally speaking, I think about 95% of messages and emails are not even worth your time and can definitely wait. I don't even keep my phone turned on during deep work. And if this is really a problem for you, just schedule your blocks early in the morning before everyone else is awake and trying to reach you. That's what a lot of big time CEOs do, because it's the only time of day when people aren't blowing up their phone and trying to seize their attention. Really bro, you've got to unlearn all this conditioning that society has put you through that says multitasking works. It's not just the teenager who goes on TikTok too much, it's the companies who force their employees to sit through useless meetings and reply to every single email immediately, when if they just allowed those employees to go deep for a few hours, their profits would be through the roof. But because society is so against deep work, that's what allows the people who master this skill to become so successful. The best-selling author who publishes multiple books a year, the online entrepreneur making 100k a month, they're all using deep work. It's literally how I made over 60 YouTube videos in under a year, whilst getting A's in all of my uni assignments and having a social life. When you get the hang of it, it's very easy to use it to stand out. But what if, no matter what task it is you sit down to do, you can't help but procrastinate? My next strategy addresses exactly that. You've got to embrace boredom. So to conquer distractions, we have to address the root cause of everything. Because of social media, everyone has a fucked attention span and a constant need to be stimulated. And I'm like this. I can't stand in a line anymore without checking my phone. I can't go on a walk without listening to a podcast. It's like we all have this need to just fill the silence with something. Our default state is to distract ourselves and drain our attention through devices whenever we're confronted with moments of boredom. And that constant urge to be entertained prevents us from leveling up our focus and our deep work skill. So to counteract this, we should be looking for opportunities to restore our attention rather than drain it. And we can do that by embracing moments of boredom instead of rejecting them. I know what you're thinking, why would I want to be bored? But hear me out. You probably know what it's like to feel overstimulated when you've been scrolling on social media or staring at a screen for too long and you start getting a slight headache. You just feel mentally exhausted. And listen up carefully, because no one really talks about this, what I'm about to explain to you. So it's probably no surprise to you that people tend to associate this feeling of overstimulation with boredom, and boredom is generally seen as a negative thing. But what you've got to remember is that there are actually two separate experiences. You might pick up the phone and become overstimulated because you're bored, but boredom on its own is actually something quite different. True boredom is actually the opposite of overstimulation. It's letting your mind rest and recharge instead of overloading it with information. It's essentially disconnecting us from our distractions and creating the ideal set of circumstances to enter a deep work state. So what we really want to do is to expose ourselves to moments of boredom. When we feel it coming on, we want to embrace it instead of defaulting to a distraction. In a way, we're kind of building up a tolerance to boredom. Instead of instantly reaching for your phone, intentionally delay the response. Allow yourself to sit with that discomfort of feeling bored and observe how your mind adjusts and responds. Over time, you'll become more comfortable with the sensation of boredom and less reliant on all these petty distractions. If you want to get good at this fast, don't just wait for boredom to hit you. You've got to actively seek out moments where you can resist distraction. Go for a walk and leave your phone at home. Instead of watching something whilst you're eating, just eat. Just focus on the food, bro. If you schedule enough activities like that into your daily routine, eventually you will have rewired your brain for deep work. So there's my 3 strategies for deep work that I had to share with you today. Given that everyone in our current generation is struggling from chronic distraction, if you're one of the rare few who can leverage these strategies to master the skill of deep work, then I'm 100% confident you can use it to become rich in the new economy. Stay sharp, stay ahead, I'm out.